The following tutorial is brought to you by WholeLoops.com.
It's production time. I'm Reed Stefan, realist puppet in the game. Today, we are going to construct our golden vocal production template using Autotune and plugins available in Ableton 10. Now, what this session is going to be is your go-to plugin structure for when you're recording a vocalist. Whether it's a rapper or a singer, this is going to be an amazing starting point using no third-party plugins other than Autotune and amazing results. So let's start out by checking out the demo. Now, there's no plugins on this yet. I figured you guys wanted to put this together. So we've got Mr. Boombox by Bad Royale and Henry Fong featuring Kara pulled up here.
Hey, yo, Mr. Boombox, can you give me something right?
And the vocal, as you could hear, is dry as a bone, aside from our Autotune. So we'll actually just start with that because that is always going to be your first plugin. Now, nothing too fancy is going on in here. You basically pick how affected you want your vocal to sound here. And since this is really more hip-hop leaning, I actually pushed it closer to 20 and up. I'd say is like hip-hop territory, and then pop music would probably be like maybe 20 to 50, and then A major for the key, because there's and then this is an alto tenor part, so I picked that. That's really all that's going on in Autotune.
Hey, yo, Mr. Boombox.
And once you have all that locked in, just go ahead and copy it down onto all your other channels, just like I did. You may want to bump up your background vocals a little bit more tuned than your lead vocal. You can kind of get away with that, and it'll help tighten them together a whole lot more. So now, the first thing we're going to want to do is set up some compression. We're actually just going to drop our first compressor straight onto our lead, and that's going to be Ableton's glue compressor. And we're just going to apply some modest compression here. Little makeup gain to bring it back up. And now this is way too much compression for a vocal, but it is the perfect amount of compression if you're using it in conjunction with the uncompressed vocal. And the way I'm going to set this up as a parallel chain instead of just an insert is by hitting Command G on the plugin, and it turns it into this audio effect rack. And then you just right click and create another chain below it. And you can call this compression 1. We're actually going to be doing a couple. Let's call this our dry signal. And
Hey, yo, Mr. Boombox, can you give me something right? Give me something right now. Hey, yo, Mr. Boombox, say, can you move my body right? Move my body right now.
that's sounding more like it. Now, I like to do a lot of compression and combine different types of compressors, and since Ableton only has 2 compressors, we're just going to head over to the other one, and let's set up compressor 2. These both are going to start to get a little bit loud, so we're just going to run these at maybe like -10.
Hey, yo, Mr. Boombox, can you give me something right?
We're going to want to achieve the same effect with both compressors, but since they sound slightly different, it's going to give us just something extra. So let's go.
Hey, yo, Mr. Boombox, can you give me something right? Give me.
I actually like the slow attack.
Hey, yo, Mr. Boombox.
You just got to turn your out down.
Hey, yo, Mr. Boombox, can you give me something right? Give me something right now. Hey, yo, Mr. Boombox, say, can you move my body right? Move my body right.
Let's hear our 2 channels of of compression.
Hey, yo, Mr. Boombox, can you give me something right?
Let's actually maybe turn them up closer to 0 since they're pretty quiet. And now to combine these,
Hey, yo, Mr. Boombox.
we're actually going to spread these out of the center just a little bit. So this one's going to go 2 to the right, and this one can go 2 to the left. And then
Hey, yo, Mr. Boombox, can you give me something right? Give me something right now.
bring these
Hey, yo,
back down
Mr.
now.
Boombox, say, can you move my body right? Move my body right now.
As you can see, when they're centered, they really kind of start to cause a lot of traffic in the center of your mix.
Hey, yo, Mr. Boombox, can you give me something right?
And then when you spread them back out.
Now. Ayo, Mr. Boombox, say, can you move my body right? Move my body right now.
Really, really subtle, but when you're mixing vocals, everything is going to be really subtle. So these are our 2 compressors, and we've got them basically slamming. I mean, the meter goes to 20 for a reason, so why not send it all the way there? Next thing that we're going to want to add is some subtle effect, and my favorite subtle effects are the ones that just create a little bit more stereo spread and not so much are a reverb that you could hear or a delay that you can hear. And Ableton has the most amazing flanger. I use it all the time, and we're going to be using that as our subtle effect. So let's pull up our Ableton flanger here down on our dry chain.
Ayo, Mr. Boombox, can you give me something right? Give me something right now.
Delay time really thickens it up a lot. You just got to pull back feedback.
Ayo, Mr. Boombox, can you give me something right? Give me something right now. Ayo, Mr. Boombox, say, can you move my body right? Move my body right now. For a long, long time, long time, yeah, I got you on my mind, on my mind.
So you can see it's really filling in the outside, not really so much the center, and because the center is already pretty much full with our dry take.
Do your 808 sound like floppy trash? Are you constantly struggling to fix weak snares that just never cut it? Here at Whole Loops, we can solve your struggle. Introducing Urban Beats Volume 2, the sequel to our blazing hip-hop and R&B drum kit. This time, we've doubled the sauce and created the perfect selection of special snares, pop-in percussions, and 808s so disrespectful, you'll be getting noise complaints in 60 minutes or less guaranteed. Urban Beats 2 is available only at wholeloops.com.
So let's continue to add a little bit more effect. I think the next thing I'm going to do is, I think as we add effects, they're going to become less and less subtle. The compression is really something that you don't even hear. You kind of forget it's there. It's just kind of a necessity. The flanger is the first fancy thing, and as we go, it just kind of gets more and more fancy. So let's get fancy. Let's create another chain. Let's do a filter delay, because this is going to give us separate options of the left and right ear. We're not going to use the center. We're really just looking at left and right. I'm not going to sync them. I'm actually going to pick a millisecond time. And this is kind of going to make us a little slap delay.
Ayo, Mr. Boombox, can you give me something right? Give me something right now. Ayo, Mr. Boom.
Let's call this one slap too. Now, the reason I don't set these up as auxes or returns is because Ableton, even Ableton 10, still limits you to 12 return channels. And also, when you flatten stuff, those return channels and all your delays and things won't end up in the stems or in the flattened part. They'll be their own kind of stem. And I would like to be able to send my vocals with effects as stems, and this audio effect rack is absolutely fantastic for that. Anyways, back to the slap echo. Let's maybe.
Ayo, Mr. Boombox, can you give me something right? Give me something right now. Ayo, Mr. Boombox.
See, it's all about creating something ever so slightly different in the left and right ear to create that stereo spread. And now to help these compete even less with the dry signal, since this is really only going through a filter to make the delay, we're going to have it go through another effect, another subtle effect.
Ayo, Mr. Boombox, can you give me something right? Give me something right now. Ayo, Mr. Boombox.
Maybe a little grit too. Why not? Since we're adding this to the slap channel, we're really just making the slaps grittier. We're not making our dry signal grittier. And this is the beauty. Whoops. We're not making our dry signal grittier. And this is the beauty of doing your chains like this. You can really manage your effects by applying the majority of them to an effect itself instead of directly onto the channel. So let's add some grit to these slaps.
Ayo, Mr. Boombox, can you give me something right? Give me something right now. Ayo, Mr. Boombox, say, can you move my body right? Move my body right now. For a long, long time, long time, I got you on my mind, on my mind.
It's starting to sound really cool. And as you can see, our dry vocal is still dry.
Can you give me something right?
Still right there in the center for you. And now we get to really use this as our effects mixer.
Hey, yo, Mr. Boombox, can you give me something right? Give me something right now. Hey, yo, Mr. Boombox, say, can you move my body right? Move my body right now.
We can even spread our effects a little bit. We can put the flanger a little bit in the left ear, proportionally put the slap in the right ear.
Hey, yo, Mr. Boombox, can you give me something right? Give me something right now.
Look at that.
Hey, yo, Mr.
Right back to the center when you
Boombox,
undo it.
can you move my body right? Move my body right now.
So you could see taking things out of the center is the key here. And effects really help you do that. So let's add another effect. We're going to start with a tight reverb. And pull up an Ableton reverb right here. Let's see what we could do. Let's shorten this a little bit. I have my reverb soloed right now. I actually want it to be kind of bright. A little bit more pre-delay. Just to kind of give it some space. And also keep your effects at 100%. Forgot to say that before. And now that it's at 100%, this is our reverb short. Let's start to turn it down and just blend it back in. Oops. Unsolo it first.
Hey, yo, Mr. Boombox, can you give me something right? Give me something right now. Hey, yo, Mr. Boombox, say, can you move my body right? Move my body right now. For a long, long time, long, long time.
As you can see, it loses a lot of power when you take the reverb away.
Got you on my mind, on my mind. Hey, yo, Mr. Boom, hey, yo, Mr. Boombox.
Cool. So we have got our short. Let's actually bump up our stereo. We got a really short space here. Not so much a big kind of reverb tail, but just something to make it sound like more like the vocals in a room and not just in a empty chamber inside your head.
Hey, yo, Mr. Boombox, can you give me something right? Give me something right now. Hey, yo, Mr. Boombox, say, can you move my body right? Move my body right now.
We have a short reverb. Let's try and add a long one now. Let's create another chain. And create another reverb. Now for this long reverb, I know I want a load of pre-delay because I want this to almost act like a delay itself.
Hey, yo, Mr. Boombox, can you give me something right? Give me something right now. Hey, yo, Mr. Boombox, say, can you move my body right? Move my body right now.
It's kind of nice and just in the mid-range, and we can even low cut it to help it be even more nice and mid-rangey.
Hey, yo, Mr. Boombox, can you give me something right? Give me something right now. Hey.
We can even spread our two reverbs a little bit. I always like to do it symmetrically.
Hey, yo, Mr. Boombox, can you give me something right? Give me something right now. Hey, yo, Mr. Boombox, say, can you move my body right? Move my body right now.
Let's add a little phaser to our reverb.
Hey, yo, Mr. Boombox, can you give me something right? Give me something right now. Hey, yo, Mr. Boombox, say, can you move my body right? Move my body right now. For a long, long time, long, long time. Got you on.
Maybe a little overdrive too. Man, something special about running a reverb through a little bit of distortion. Instead of overdrive, actually, let's use saturator because I don't want to really pick a band. I kind of want to distort the whole thing. Let's do some saturator.
Hey, yo, Mr. Boombox, can you give me something right? Give me something right now. Hey, yo, Mr. Boombox, say, can you move my body right?
It almost compresses the tails without actually applying compression to it. I don't really like compressing my reverb tails. I like leaving them kind of dynamic because the vocal's already so compressed. So this is kind of a great way to trick the ear into thinking that the reverb tail is compressed when really it's just being harmonically excited.
Hey, yo, Mr. Boombox, can you give me something right? Give me something right now. Hey, yo, Mr. Boombox, say, can you move my body right? Move my body right now.
Cool. So I'm actually going to turn that reverb down a little bit more. Kind of a trade-off. More reverb is kind of like more vibe, but less easy to understand the lyrics. So you kind of get to pick your own balance and automate this as the song goes. I oftentimes use less during the verses, more during the hooks, really with all these effects. So now that we have our reverbs locked in, we're going to go ahead and start doing some delays. And there's two really important ones that you're going to want in your template, and that's going to be a ping pong delay. Now I always have an 8th note ping pong delay. It just works for me. Let's call this 1/8. And dry wet up at 100.
Hey, yo, Mr. Boombox, can you give me something right? Give me something right now. Hey, yo, Mr. Boombox, say, can you move my body right? Move my body right now. For a long, long time, long, long time, yeah.
Now, it's really important to separate your delays from your dry signal. And right now, the delays are sounding really dry. And delays are my favorite place to put my crazy effects on. So we're actually going to put some flanger on these delays, maybe even some chorus. I don't know. We're just going to go ham and see what happens.
Hey, yo, Mr. Boombox, can you give me something right? Give me something right now. Hey, yo, Mr. Boombox, say, can you move my body right? Move my body right now.
I don't know about you, but that sounds like the sauce to me. Now, we have our ping pongs locked in. You can even pick the thinness or thickness of them right here. But ping pong delay default setting is really in a great spot for vocals. Next thing that we're going to want to add is a half note delay. And for our half note delay, we're just going to use the old filter delay. The one right in the center.
Long, long time.
And half notes are 8.
Long, long time.
So you see they're being filtered kind of low. That's actually really good for a vocal since the most of it's up here. Have the delays kind of take place down here. Fills a different spot of your mix-up.
Long, long time. Got you on my mind.
Cool, so now that these half note delays are rocking, we're just going to turn them down a little bit and add a nice effect to these. And putting some reverb on your half note delays really gives a lush sense of space. And since these delays are getting reverbed, we don't need to put this at 100%.
Long, long time.
Just send them to the background a little bit. You hear how they don't compete with the vocal now, but they're still there, filling it up, giving you that wonderful sense of awesome. There's some delays going on right now, but the lyrics are just as easy to understand, and that's very important to be cognizant of as you mix, because it is so easy to get really stoked on effects and completely muffle your lyrics. I've done it plenty of times, but the beauty is of parallel processing, you just back off the volume of the effects a little bit, maybe push up the volume of the compression a little bit, and you're really mixing like a pro. So this piece right here
Hey, yo, Mr. Boombox.
is really your vocals chain. Not so much the whole template. Technically, this would just be the chain. The beauty of the template is you now have all of these kind of laid out ready for you to record right into. And instead of copying and pasting this onto all the other channels, since they're background vocals, we're just going to process them together by highlighting everything below the lead, hitting Command-Shift-G to group it, and we are going to copy this chain right up onto here and do the very same thing to our background vocals.
Move my body right, move my body right now. For a long, long time, long, long time. Got you on my mind.
Call this group background vocals.
Ayo, Mr.
I even like to change the color of these effects channels. Kind of helps me differentiate between which ones to click on for the individual plugins and which ones to click on more for like the group effects. Really useful in Ableton 10. Can't get enough of this. So let's give this one more listen and see what else we can do.
Ayo, Mr. Boombox, can you give me something right? Give me something right now. Ayo, Mr. Boombox, say, can you move my body right? Move my body right now. For a long, long time, long, long time.
Just generally turn down the backgrounds, just about 8 or so less than your leads tends to be the amount that I pick. And throughout your backgrounds, it's also really important to pan them. Right now, they don't sound very big when they come in because everything is right down the center. And remember, mixing is really like so much of just a process of cleaning out the center, especially if you make hip hop and especially if you make pop music. The center needs to be there for your vocal. And when I say center, I don't mean the center of the EQ range, really left to right panning wise, I mean center. So let's listen to these. Let's just go through. I know these are going to be doubles because I labeled them. It's very convenient when you do a template just to know that it's going to be on the right volume and all that stuff.
For a long, long time.
So these are just straight up doubles of the lead. I'm going to just throw one in the left ear, one in the right ear.
For a long, long time.
Boom, already much bigger. Let's listen to our next note.
Ayo, Mr. Boombox.
Let's bring this one, since this is a higher harmony, I like to bring it closer to 50, but maybe just back it off a little bit to like 40 for this pair. We're going to create a nice even spread between centered and hard left and hard right using the rest of these channels. And maybe put this one like around 25. Now, our vocal template is just about finished. The only thing that I want to do is separate our background vocals just even more from the lead so that when they come in, they just feel like melodic and power support and not so much literal just extra stacks of singing. And the way that we're going to do that is with some filtering. And we're just going to use the basic EQ8 to do this filtering. And this is going to be some low cutting. Since we don't really need the full range of voice from our doubles, it's more just there for moral support.
For a long, long time.
We can actually clean up a lot of junk out of our mixdown just by taking what doesn't absolutely need to be in there.
Long time.
Like this is going to be too thin for a lead vocal, but for a background vocal,
Long time.
just a simple EQ job is going to do some massive cleanup to your vocals. So we're going to just paste this all around, and I kind of pick where to low cut it based off of how high the note is.
Ayo, Mr. Boombox.
So that was a little bit higher of a note, so pick a little bit higher of an EQ spot, paste it down to the duplicate, and let's just continue on down the pile. Let's give this one a listen.
Ayo, Mr. Boombox.
This is a really high note.
Ayo, Mr. Boombox.
Yeah, right around 500 is good. We can even cut out some of the high end out of this one too. Just looking for the note out of this. We're not looking for any of the consonants. We really just want the vowels out of these harmonies. And the EQ is going to help us really isolate just the vowels out of that vocal performance.
Ayo, Mr. Boombox. On my body right.
Let's check it out now.
Ayo, Mr. Boombox, can you give me something right? Give me something right now. Ayo, Mr. Boombox, can you move my body right? Move my body right now. For a long, long time, long, long time. Got you on my mind, on my mind. Ayo, Mr. Boom, ayo, Mr. Boombox, ayo, Mr. Boom.
Now, I know the vocal's been a little bit louder than it should be for the beat, but during this stage in the game, you're going to want to turn your beat down a little bit just so you could hear what's going on in your vocals a little bit better. And then at the end,
Ayo, Mr. Boombox,
get your final balance.
Give me something right now.
But honestly, you don't want to mix and bounce your final version of this song with the beat in the acapella session. You really want to do all your work with your automation, mute the beat, bounce out the acapella, and bring it back into your beat session to create your final version. But there you have it. This is going to be your new golden vocal template to start every project with, especially if you don't want to go cluttering stuff up with third-party plugins. You could literally just record it through the Autotune if you're using UAD. You could put the Autotune on and then flatten it and then do all your plugins so that you don't have to worry about the latency. And also, you don't need Autotune for this. I know there's a bunch of companies who make something that do exactly the same thing for much less. I know the Waves one is amazing, and that only costs like $60 or so on the Wave store. So you don't need to buy the expensive Antares one, the expensive UAD one. There's a lot of advantages to doing so that I've talked about in my other videos, but this one was really just helping you guys set up your golden template, because I swear your vocal production can only be as strong as your template. Templates are everything. Put a lot of time into finding your favorite effects, lock it in, save these things. I mean, you could save these things for a reason. Golden, we call it Reed's Golden Volks Chain. Boom. Pull this up next time you record a vocal in another session. Just drop it on there. You don't have to pull up this session and record vocals into it. I highly recommend doing that though. But anyways, thank you so much for watching. I hope this helped you step up your vocals game. I'll be seeing you guys next time with another tutorial. Peace out.